And the last one is that he doesn't he doesn't have any opposition to the culture of the people that he lives in. This one requires some elaboration. He doesn't oppose the Mūṛūʿah of his people. And Mūṛūʿah, some people might give you a wrong explanation of this, so be careful about this one. Mūṛūʿah is related to the culture of the people and not the text of the book and the Sunnah. Because if he opposes the text of the book and the Sunnah, we put him in the category of the fourth one, that he's a fasiq. So here we're talking about someone who does something strange and opposes the culture of his people, so much so that the people look at him and they would never take him seriously. Does something idiotic, something foolish. An example of that today, I ask you, what's the ruling on wearing a bathrobe? The Islamic ruling on wearing a bathrobe out of the house. A terry cloth bathrobe. What's the Islamic ruling on wearing that out of the house? And is it silk? No. Is it above the ankles? Yes. Does it cover the awrah? Yes. All the guidelines for clothing, are they met with a bathrobe that's covered the person properly? Tayyib. So that means it's perfectly halal, perfectly fine for a Muslim to wear a bathrobe out in the public? Here's a violation of Mūṛūʿah here. Mūṛūʿah. The culture of the people dictates here that item and that material and the style of that clothing is not acceptable outside of the house. There's no text in the book or the Sunnah to prohibit wearing a bathrobe. Right? But here, the standard is that the customs of the people has to be observed. And the person cannot stand out and do... What if you're a person who has knowledge to benefit the people and you come out wearing a bathrobe? Each and every person is going to say something is obviously wrong with this individual. Maybe he's crazy, he's not worthy of teaching. The very least I'm going to say about him is he's not worthy of teaching. The brothers are not going to set up lectures for him at the masjid, not any masjid. The people and the kuffar won't take from him. It's not something about, really, Mūṛūʿah, it's not related to Islam specifically. It's something that if you did it in a culture, no one would take you seriously. So if you do something in a culture that causes you not to be taken seriously, then how could your hadith be accepted? If you're conveying the most noble of all knowledge, you're conveying the revelation from Allah Azza wa Jal. Your simple, ordinary report of something that happened wouldn't be accepted. So what about knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jal and His deen and the revelation transmitted from the great messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? It would never be accepted from you. So this is sort of like an intellectual condition. You don't even need to know that the scholars put this as a condition. It's just the reality of the way people interact with each other. Whenever any individual in a society does something to this degree to make the people make light of him and not take him seriously, they naturally will not take anything from him. Because he's ridiculous to them. He's a fool. Maybe they have no text in their revelation to say what you're doing is wrong. But you have violated their culture. Another example. If I was to hold my middle finger up and gesture with it towards someone, that has a meaning, right? Is there an ayat in the book prohibiting that specific action? Is there a sunnah? Is there a hadith prohibiting it? You could say sibab al-Muslim, fusuq. But how do you know that sibab al-Muslim? Did the Prophet ﷺ saying did he say that raising the middle finger and gesturing it towards another Muslim is sibab? What is it that makes that insulting a Muslim? And that's haram. Huh? Okay. مَنْ تَشَبَّهَ بِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. Whoever imitates the people, he's from them. Forget about kuffar and Muslims. This is something that's looked down upon by both kuffar and Muslims. It's not really specific to a deen. This is something specific to a thaqafa or aada, something specific to the society you live in. Because the kuffar, the Christians in Egypt don't know anything about this. So it's not really related to disbelief or belief. It's related to the culture of the people. Both Muslims and non-Muslims in this place understand this to be an insult and to be not at all acceptable from a person of good character. From an upright person would never do this kind of thing. And if a person was known to be doing this kind of thing, making this kind of gesture to other people, people would not take him seriously. That's the point. You do something that causes people to not take you seriously. And it doesn't have to have a text in the book and the Sunnah against it. Rather, it's something only in the culture of the people. There are books written about Mūṛūʿah. From the best of those books, the gathering like all the things that were considered Mūṛūʿah or integrity, or agreeing to the culture of the people that you live amongst. From the best of those books is a very expansive research done by Shaykh Mashhur Hassan Salman. It's called Khawarim al-Mūsa. The things that nullify your Mūsa, your personal integrity, that which if you violate it, people won't take you seriously. That's what we're talking about here, Mūsa. Very expansive book. Talks about what people considered in each era, in each society, as things that violated the integrity of the people who lived there in that time and place. So they would mention, for example, eating ice cream. In a certain time, in a certain place, people eating ice cream was something ridiculous. The people would not accept it. It's crazy. But in this place, eating ice cream is not going to make you a fool that no one would take knowledge from, or no one would take seriously. Eating in a public place, the scholars of old, they used to never accept that. And still, in many times, many places on earth, they won't accept anyone eating in a public place. You have to eat privately in your home. The restaurant idea is something new to a lot of the Arab countries, eating in a restaurant out in front of the people. Eating in front of people would be something that would make the people look at you as if something is very wrong with you. I cannot take any important from you. You're not a serious person if you do something like that. Some of them said a person can't ride his horse properly. A person can't get on his horse and stabilize himself and ride a horse properly, then he's a foolish person. That eliminates almost all of us if we applied it blanketly. Right? None of us could be acceptable as conveyors of anything important, because why we violate that Mūsa? But that's tied to a specific place and a specific time, when every man knows how to ride a horse. That's how you get around. That's how every man knows about that. From when he's a boy, his father teaches him how to ride a horse. It's everybody. So when you don't, something is really weird about you. For some reason, you don't know how to ride a horse. So, likewise, there's hundreds of things that the scholars in the past have mentioned, and some of them are totally incorrect in this book. Some of them that the Shaykh Mashhur, he brings, and he identifies them as being totally contradictory to our Sharia. For example, some of the scholars said, and this is an error, some of the scholars said, for a scholar or for a righteous person to be considered to have adal and to have adala, or to be from the manners of the people of knowledge, is that they do not come to the masjids and pray with the common people. This is mentioned as something that violates your Mūsa, that you're a knowledgeable person, a scholar, and you come out and pray in the masjid with the common people. So the scholars have identified that as an error, and the scholar, just like the layman, comes and he prays in the masjid. However, some people, they have an opinion, and they think this opinion should apply to people, and we should not accept the hadith. For example, so-and-so is a great scholar, and he just prays in the masjid like a regular person. How can you take his hadith? He's always praying in that regular masjid with those regular people. And that opinion is rejected, and no one can allow anyone to reject the narration of a person because of something like that. And that shows you the importance of a principle that we're going to go into. When there's criticism established on a narrator, you have to look into the criticism. Because maybe someone criticized a narrator based on something like this. Maybe his criticism was from a totally wrong standpoint. We don't accept his hadith because he prays in the masjid with the regular people. So then you reject that criticism because it's not founded on a sound principle. There are your five principles for authentic hadith. And there are the 5 conditions for someone being called adal. And there are the 2 types of dabt we mentioned. Then we have the chain being connected, the absence of shudud, and the absence of a hidden defect. There are your 5 basic conditions for an authentic